Guys, we are going to now learn the Mishnah, Bava Metzia, Parak Zayin, Mishnah Chet, about different types of Shomrim. So we're going to go over the cases listed here. We went over the types of Shomrim previously. We're just going to look at the types of Nezek that can happen when you are a Shomer. Again, if you take these notes down, you're going to need them for the Mishnah to make sure you have them. Shavur is when the animal is broken. Nishba is swears. Shavuya is kidnapped. Hakol is all cases. Meshalem is to pay. Some of them you might have already. You'll skip those if you have them. And some of them you'll see you have from your previous notes for this Mishnah. Take these down. Now, Mishnah starts off, Shomer perot ochlin mihilchot medina avalo min Torah. That line is really about a different topic, but it is related. Someone that is shomer perot, you're working at a farm for somebody, you're a shomer of some sort, you're allowed to eat from anything that you're working from without paying for it. That's not a Torah law, right? That's lo min haTorah, but mihilchot medina. That's just the legal thing. If the law says you can, you can. And if the law says you can't, you can't. The Torah doesn't have a specific rule for that. It starts off there. That's actually how it's related to the rest of this parak. The beginning of the parak. But then it says Arbaah Shomrim Heim. Arbaah Shomrim Heim. Shomer Chinam V'Hashoel Nose Sachar, just as the same as Shomer Sachar, and V'Hasocher. And it gives you four categories, lists of things that if certain things happen, are they Nishba, are they Mishalem, what's the halacha? Nishba for our Mishnah means patur, meaning you're allowed to make a shavua, an oath, or swear that you're innocent, and then you're patur. If the shomer does not want to make a shavua, they do actually have to pay. But if they make the shavua, if they're nishba, then they're patur. Mishalem means there's no opportunity for shavua, they just have to pay. So we see Pshia, Ones, Geneva, and Aveda, some of the things we talked about previously in this Mishnah. And again, the halacha of whether or not the shomer has to pay is going to depend on how much benefit they got and how high level the responsibility was and how likely the thing to happen was, how likely the nezek to happen was, how much of it was their fault. Do we assume they're responsible or are they really assumed to be patur? Here's some of those cases. Again, a case of Pashia is when they are negligent. It is the fault of the shomer because they just really weren't careful. That's going to influence to be more chayav. You see, different types of nezek are more like Pashia naturally, no matter what the circumstances are, versus ones, which will be patur in most cases. Now, Pashia is not the same thing as mazid. Mazid is intentional. Pashia is negligent. You leave the phone-sniffing dog, I don't know if that exists, leave the phone-sniffing dog next to a phone and a cup of coffee, that's negligent, not on purpose. You didn't do it on purpose. Versus hitting the computer with a hammer, that's mazid, that's on purpose. Those are not going to be the same. Mazid, you are always going to be chayav, no matter what the circumstances are, no matter what kind of shomer you are. Pashia will depend on the shomer and the type of cases. Versus this with ones, which is more likely uncontrollable, more likely unavoidable, and that will really depend on the level of responsibility as a shomer for those cases. So we said Geneva is theft. Now Geneva is more similar to Pashia in the sense that you could have been setting something up to protect it, but it's also more similar to ones because you didn't try to get the guy to come steal it. You weren't even there watching. So it's actually really in the middle of the two of them, right? It's the middle of Pshia and Ones. So that's going to really be a balance of level of responsibility, depend on the shomer. Aveda, similarly, is in the middle of Pshia and Ones, right? Losing things happens. Now, I could be really, really careful and just fall out of my pocket. I could be really careful and just forget where I put something. It's not really Pashia, it's more like onus in that sense, but also just, remember where you put it and don't lose it. Then it's going to be more like Pashia. It's really in the middle of the two of them. So that one is going to be in the middle. Something like Shavura is closer to onus. As long as you weren't using it in an inappropriate way or irresponsible way, things break, right? It's kind of part of life. It's something that happens. You can't always be so sure. That's going to be closer to onus. And depending on the level of responsibility, the type of shomer, we're more likely to be patur or nishba in our Mishnah. And shivuya is more similar to onus as well, because if someone's really coming and stealing it, right? In this case, they are coming right there. What's the truck driver going to do? Stop? They could attack him, right? It's going to be more closer to onus. Not exactly onus, because you could stop. You could try to protect it, but it is going to be more close to onus than it would be pashia. That's a case of shivuya, kidnapping. If we look at the Mishnah now, we see that each line is kind of a category, right? I highlighted the mikra in purple and the din in green for this case. Focusing on this area. Shomer chinam is a mikra, a case of a shomer chinam. Shoel is a mikra, it's a case of a shoel. Those two are going to be a universal rule for anything going to happen. Nose sachar and socher are a mikra as well, but they're going to depend on what happens, right? We're going to see the halacha is going to change for shavura, shivuya, and meta versus et aveda v'et ganeva. For those, so let's look at each of those on their own. Shomer chinam nishba al hakol. A shomer chinam, someone who's watching for free. They're not paying for being paid or paying. They're going to be nishba on anything that happens, any sort of nezek that happens to that item. They make a shavua that says they were not intentionally doing it, that are doing b'mezid, or they were not pashia completely. They say this is what happened, right? Robbers came and took it. Kidnappers came and stole the sheep. The sheep just died. The phone fell and broke. The whatever it was, they make that shavua also to make sure they're not stealing it, saying, oh, it's gone, it got lost, it's really in their pocket. That would be stealing, right? They make a shavua to prove that they really did do their shmira and something happened to it and now it's gone. They make a shavua, nishba al hakol, they're patur. They do not have to pay anything in any case. Again, if they steal it, if they do it on purpose, b'mezid, those kind of situations would be different, but a regular case of a shomer is nishba al hakol. The opposite of that is a shoel. A shoel is meshalem et hakol, because the shoel is getting the most benefit. Remember that benefit relationship. Shomer chinam gets no benefit. Shoel gets the most benefit. They're meshalem et hakol. No matter what, if the shomer as a shoel shows up and that item is not there, the ball gets there and it's not there, they have to pay for it. They were borrowing it. They take full responsibility for anything that could happen in that case. So they are meshalem et hakol. They pay for any case of nezek. We're watching that. You have to be very responsible when borrowing someone's things, because you really are fully responsible for that. Most achrayut, that is the most level or likely to be chayav, no matter what the case is, ones or pashia. The next one is more complicated. Nose sachar and socher. Remember, nose sachar or shomer sachar is a person getting paid. They have a very high responsibility, but not quite as high as shoel, because they are getting benefit, but limited benefit, the paycheck. Socher is a renter. They're getting benefit from it as well. Again, limited because they have to pay. It's in the middle of that. So for certain cases, they are nishba. They swear that their story is true and they're patur. So the Mishnah goes, nishba'in al hashavura, on if the thing gets broken or the animal gets hurt, vala shivuya, if it gets kidnapped, vala meta, if it dies. They make a shavua that their case is not one of absolute pashia, absolute mazid, and they're patur. Nishba'im al hashavura, v'hal shivuya, v'al hameta. They can make a shavua and they're done. They go away. How those cases are closer to ones. Because it's closer to ones, they can get off with just a shavua. However, mishalmin et aveda v'et ganeva. We said those are in the middle. They're a little bit closer to pashia than ones. They're in the middle. Therefore, no matter what, a nose sachar or a socher is going to have to pay for an Aveda if it gets lost, or Geneva if it gets stolen without a weapon there, without an armed robber or something like that. The difference between Geneva and Shavuya. So they had to pay for it again. Nose Sachar and Socher have to Nishbayan al Shavura val Shavuya val Ameta, and they are Mishalmin et Aveda et Geneva. We're going to see on the worksheet there's going to be a chart. We're going to look at what kind of shomer it is and what kind of nezek is it, depending on how it falls out. Right? If it's a shomer chinam, it'll be nishba on everything. A shoel will be a mishalim at everything. The nose sachar and socher, then it depends. Is it shavura? Is it shavuya? Is it meta? Or is it aveda and geneva? Depending on the case, they'll either be nishba or mishalim. We'll see that next.